One of my favorite parts about D&D 5e is how we can take parts of the game and enhance it and kind of supplement it as much as we want to kind of dig into parts that we want to experience more. For me, one of the areas that is maybe lacking a little in 5e is the crafting system. It's not really there. They have these toolkits and stuff, but they haven't really dug into it. So I've always wanted to kind of experience that part of the game more, but without bogging the game down too much. I want it to be a part of it, but I don't want it to be overbearing. And I've been looking for a good way to do that for a while. Well, fortunately for us, Nord Games has come out with a book to do just that. The Ultimate Guide to Alchemy, Crafting, and Enchanting. So today we're going to take a look at that book and see why it's so great. Let's get into it. Hey guys, I'm Joe. Welcome to the DM Toolbox. I know it's been a couple weeks since I put out a video, but this past week I was at Gen Con and I was helping out Cobalt Press run some games, and I had to spend some of my time leading up to that preparing. I'm kind of an over-preparing DM, and I printed a bunch of minis and painted them and did maps and all this stuff for the games I was going to run at Gen Con. So that kind of took up a lot of my time and effort, and I didn't really get any videos out. So I apologize for that, but I'm back. I am going to be bringing you guys a bunch of scenes and videos that I took at Gen Con. I still need to get those downloaded and edited and up online for you, but that's all coming, so stay tuned for that. But this week, I want to look at a new book that I got. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button. It helps me out. The channel's growing. We're doing great, but I could definitely use your help to keep it going in the right direction. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Toolbox_DM and search me up on TikTok as well at DM Toolbox. I'm putting out videos there all the time as well, so check that out. All that stuff aside, let's dig into this awesome book. This is The Ultimate Guide to Alchemy, Crafting, and Enchanting, appropriately named because it really is the ultimate guide. I have wanted to make crafting better in the game for a while. And in one of the games I run, I have both an herbalist and a poisoner, and I wanted to enhance that experience. I really feel like those professions are maybe some of my favorites. And I wrote up a whole supplemental rule book on herbalism, alchemy, and poisoning. I did this huge thing on the home brewery, which, by the way, is a great tool for you homebrewing DMs. Check out the home brewery. It lets you create your own homebrew rules in a really cool kind of official 5e looking way to it. But I fell a little short in my design. I kind of went a little too far. I overcomplicated it. I liked the direction I was going. I had recipes. I had ingredients. The different ingredients would have different properties for said recipes. I had a list of herbs and where they can be located by region, but I just kind of missed the mark a little. It became a little too overbearing, and we ended up not using it. It kind of just fell to the wayside. So I've been looking to go back and tune that up a little bit, make that a little bit more fun for a while, and I just didn't get around to it. And now I don't need to because Nord Games came out with this book, and they really seem to have the very same thought process, words are hard sometimes, that I had. And they nailed it. They really nailed it for me. So let's take a look at this book and why I think it's so great. But as always, let's start off with the physical book. I love the artwork on this book, by the way. The cover's great. Even the back cover's really cool. And again, they do the sewn-in bindings, which I'm always a fan of. It makes for a good quality book. They have awesome art in here. Very similar style to the Treacherous Trap books that we went over a couple weeks ago. But they have some very nice artwork in this book. They have, broken it up into some great chapters to make it very easily referenced for us. And we're going to go through those one by one. So let's take a look. Oh, and by the way, they also do the sketch arts, which I love. These little kind of just ink drawings on the pages. So let's go through and start where I always like to start, with the table of contents, because that's a great place to start. The book's broken up into 7 chapters. We have associations, we have alchemy, we have crafting, which is kind of all the other crafting professions like smithing and woodworking and stuff like that. And then we have enchanting. We have a section on the underground, which I'll get into. And then we have recipes. And then we have a magic item compendium with all new magic items and potions and stuff like that, which we could also craft with recipes in this book. And then we have at the end of this book, we have an appendix or two appendix, one for harvesting and one for foraging. So very, very, very useful stuff. So let's dig into this. Let's start with chapter 1, associations. I like this concept a lot. I think this is something maybe I was missing in my homebrew, because what I had done is I created a bunch of recipes and I just said, here you go, herbalist, pick 3 recipes from these tier 1 recipes I made, and those recipes. What associations do is they're essentially like a guild or a union or a group that you can join to help train you in your profession, make you better at it, and advance in it. So part of that is that certain benefits come with an association. One is you have access to supplies and workspaces at discount rates and things like that. Another benefit is you get what we call the discipline ability. So when you join the association, because of your training through the association, you're generally a little bit better at crafting stuff. So you get this ability that just kind of gives you a little bit of a push. It's not overpowering or anything, but it's, for instance, things like if you're an alchemist, you can use intelligence or wisdom when crafting, player's choice. So that's kind of a nice little bonus there. The other thing is that these associations or guilds or unions, whatever you want to call them, they have guiding principles. They are generally lawful groups. So if you do anything that could bring trouble to them, you'll get in trouble with them. You could get demoted, you can get disciplined, you could be held back from advancing, or you can get kicked out. So there's a lot of you have certain rules you have to follow if you want to be a part of these groups. However, the cool thing is, as soon as you join, when you become a novice, which is the first rank, they're going to hand you a book and say, here's all the books that novices in our guild are allowed to craft. Go ahead and start crafting that stuff. And once you've done a certain amount of crafting, you can then go on a quest that they'll send you on. And once completed, you can move up to the next rank, which is apprentice. And after apprentice is expert, and then artisan, and then finally a master crafter. So as you advance through, you get access to new recipes. So every time you rank up, they'll give you a new book of recipes. Now, there are certain recipes that are illegal. They're banned. Masters might be able to craft those in certain situations, but they can't abuse that power. If they do, they could even get in trouble from other masters in the association. So that is the drawback right there, is you don't get access to everything in the book, because those are the restrictions, right? That's the drawback. And we'll get to how you can get those a little bit later on. But it's a really cool system. And, another part is that, I talked about quests. So the only way you can rank up is if you're a novice. Anybody of a higher rank, be it an apprentice, an expert, artisan, or master, can advance you once you've completed so many recipes and gone on a quest. If you're an apprentice, only an expert or an artisan or a master can advance you. If you're an expert, only an artisan or a master can advance you, and so on. So somebody higher than you in the association has to approve your advancement. But it doesn't cost you anything. That's the cool thing, is that once you're a part of this, you don't have to pay for training. It comes with it. Now, you still have to pay for supplies and things, but you'll get those at a cheaper rate. So that's another benefit. But if you fall into bad standing, which we do actually have a section here on bad standing, you're going to have to work and get yourself out of that. So don't screw up. You don't want to screw up, because you don't want to be on the association's bad side. You also have connections. So if you're a member, of an association, you have connections throughout the country or the kingdom or wherever the DM decides is an appropriate area of influence for the association. But it's generally more than just like one town or city. Generally, these associations are far-reaching groups. So you do get connections wherever you go with that. So it's kind of like a background ability, right? And then rather than association just being this vague organization, they're actually giving us tables to help us develop our association in a little bit more detail. So we can either roll up details about these associations or pick our favorite things, but it gives the association a little bit more life. Now that we've talked about the associations, which are kind of the basis of how we get things, we get materials, we get advancement, we get recipes, let's talk about the different professions themselves. So the first one in here is alchemy. And alchemy is somewhat of a big one. The way alchemy works is that they have their certain principles, right? They have a respect for nature. They're secret about their recipes. You don't, if you give the recipes away to somebody outside of the association, you can get in trouble. If you're caught with recipes you're not supposed to have, you can get in trouble. So you do have to follow their rules. Recipes themselves, potions themselves, are made up of three components. A base, which is like a liquid or a solvent. Could be water, could be alcohol, something like that. Could be oil, right? But it's some kind of liquid or solvent. Then we have a reagent. So this is generally the thing that we harvest from a creature or a plant or something like that. Something from nature that has a magical property. But then we have to mix these two things and we have to bind them. And we bind them with a catalyst. The catalyst is generally something that is like seeds, which seeds are kind of an essence of life, right? Things grow from seeds. So seeds can be a catalyst. Gem dust might be a catalyst. Precious metals could be a catalyst, like gold dust. Or even blood would be a good one for like a life force, like a healing potion. So those are our catalysts. Now, alchemy in this book is not just alchemist supplies, not just alchemy. It also covers herbalists and poisoners. So herbalist kits and poisoners kit. So depending on what recipes and what we're making and what specialization we choose, we're going to need different kits. So that's the next thing, is that every profession, be it alchemy or blacksmithing or whatever, has a specialization. And as you go into, when you're a novice, there's no specialization. But once you become an apprentice, you choose a specialization. And then from that point on, you can generally only do recipes of your specialization. So for alchemy, our specializations are, we have an alchist, I believe is how you say it. They're the ones who make destructive mixtures, right? Like alchemist fire or something like that. We have an apothecary who is doing restorative mixtures, healing potions and things. And then we have tinctures, which do transformation type potions, things like potion of water breathing or something like that. So those are your three specializations. So once you choose your specialization, you're going to get recipes based on that specialization as you advance through the guild. Each section, and I'll show you the alchemy one, and I'll kind of breeze over the others, will have a quest for general principles and things like that. So these are the quests you'll do early on. And then once you get into your specialist, you'll have your quest for your specialization. So again, every time you want to rank up, it's going to say you need to do X number of, you have to complete X number of recipes and then go on this quest. And somebody in the guild or the association will send you on that quest. And once it's done, you can advance. And if you fail, doesn't necessarily mean that you can't advance. Depending on why you failed. If you showed effort, but nothing was maybe impossible, they might still accept that. But if you just totally screwed up, you might have to now spend time, like a certain duration of time in study and practice before you can advance. Moving on, let's get into crafting. So crafting is a cool section. This is one that I did not cover in my personal homebrew. Crafting covers all those other professions short of enchanting. So this is our carpenters, glass blowers, jewelers, leather workers, smiths, tinkerers, weavers, and wood carvers. So each of those is a specialization. And each of those would use the perspective toolkit. We talked earlier about our discipline ability. I think I had already mentioned, but just to mention again, for alchemists, the discipline ability was basically called mental adaptability, where you can use intelligence or wisdom to make your crafting checks. For crafting, it's physical adaptability, so you can use strength or dex, your choice. Later on, when we look at recipes, it'll say, this is a DC 15 strength check. But if you are part of an association and you have this ability, you can now use Dex or Strength, your choice. Again, like I said, we have our specializations here, and we have our quest for each one. So very similar to Alchemy. I don't want to dig too far into this and take up too much time. It's a very similar idea. You'll advance. You need somebody higher than you in the association to advance you, and all that. So very similar. Enchanting, same basic concept. Our discipline ability here is magical sensibility. This one's a little different. So with this one, you gain proficiency in the Arcana skill, and you can cast Identify as a ritual. If you're already proficient in Arcana, you gain proficiency in another skill of your choice. That's pretty cool. Enchanting isn't really a profession in rules as written 5e. So they've kind of added that here. And almost maybe I think as a DM, I might say this is basically, instead of a toolkit, you could take enchanting as a profession, so to speak. You could join this guild. However, enchanters do use toolkits, so maybe not. I don't know how it would work that. The reason enchanters use toolkits, they could use carpenter's tools or glassblower's tools or jeweler's tools or smith tools or any of those other toolkits, because depending on how they enchant, they're going to need tools. We have 3 basic specializations here. We have the Electist. The Electist is the guy who's going to take everyday items and enchant them. So he's going to make the Bag of Holding or the Instrument of the Bard or the Alchemy Jug. Then we have the Implemancer. This specialization focuses on magical weapons. Then we have the Wardwright. This specialization focuses on magical armor and shields. So again, we have our quests and our advancement, just like the other professions. However, there is a bit more to enchanting in that we have certain tables we have to roll on, and random things could happen during the enchanting process. It does take a significant amount of time to enchant stuff, and that's to basically make sure that we keep our players in check when they don't get too many magic items too quickly. So they did do a good job of making sure that players don't just grab enchanting and have 10 magical items at level 3. That's just not going to happen. So all very similar to the other professions. Like, again, I don't want to dig too far in and take up too much time, but it's done in such a way that it stays balanced and you won't give your players too many magic items, which is important. Next up, the next chapter, and this is the one I told you we come back to, is the Underground. The reason this chapter is cool is because if you are the player that is like, I don't need an association, I don't need your stinking rules, I want to make whatever I want to make. I don't want, what's this, banned recipes? If I want to make a banned recipe, I'll make a banned recipe. You want to go underground. Underground is basically what it sounds like. You go to the underground, you go to the black market, you find somebody to train you, and you pay them to do so. It says here that most underground mentors charge 2 gold per day for training, and it typically takes 250 days for a character to become proficient in a new tool set. So you can still kind of advance through those ranks, but now you have access to banned and restricted recipes. You do not get the benefit of the the ability that they get. You don't get the connections and the discounts and stuff like that, but you do get access to recipes that others don't have. Now, you also are doing something illegal. You could get caught. You can get in trouble. If you are part of an association, you could still go to the underground and get stuff. But if the association finds out, you get in trouble. So this adds a lot of cool options and abilities for role play and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool. Moving on, the next chapter is probably the most important in the whole book. It's the recipes. So they give us this template right here, which is basically a template of how all the recipes are laid out, which is basically the name, a tag for it, the profession, the specialization, the rank, meaning like novice or master or whatever, the time it takes, the value of the item, the ingredients, the tools needed, the source, the ability check needed, the properties and the description. And in the case of enchanting, these flex enchantment options, meaning, rather than a gloves of cold resistance, I could make, a cloak of cold resistance. Same recipe, just different mundane item or whatever. There's different ways, or maybe instead of a cold resistant one, to make a fire resistant one. I just swap out that one item rather than the cold resistant magic reagent. I use a fire resistant magic reagent. So we will have recipe ranks. We'll have basically based on your ranking. It could take more or less time to make it. A master takes less time to make something than a novice. So if a master is doing a novice recipe, he can knock it out a lot quicker. We have these arcane source tables, or these enchanting source tables. Depending on the type of enchanter you are, you roll in these D100 tables, and you knock out or different things can happen. Because you could enchant using arcane, you can enchant using nature, or you can enchant using the divine, right? You whether you're a magic user or like a wizard or a druid would use nature, or a cleric would use divine to enchant weapons or enchant items in general. And then we get into ingredients themselves and the grades of ingredients. So our ingredients: low grade, medium grade, high grade. A low grade ingredient could add 2 to the DC to create that item. So rather than DC 15 now, it's a DC 17, where a high grade could be -2 to the DC. So now it's a DC 13 instead of a DC 15. So it kind of goes through all of that stuff. And then, they have different properties, right? Medical or hide, intoxicant, feathers, gemstones, fibers, all sorts of different stuff. Water, wood, toxin. And then we get into our actual recipes. So here's our alchemy recipes, broken up by rank, right? So here's our apprentice ones for each specialization. Here's our novice recipes. And then we have our apprentice recipes, our expert recipes, and it goes through, it gives kind of a list. And then the actual recipes themselves. So it tells us, if I want to make, let's say, alchemist fire, I need some type of flammable fluid, so let's say oil, and I need some kind of elemental source, fire. So I'm going to need some kind of essence from like a fire elemental or something like that. And then we have the same thing with our crafting recipes and things like that. So one good example here, I'll give you a great example that I kind of looked at earlier. Let's say I want to make a maul. A maul says it takes 2 hours to craft. I have to be an artisan. So that is what is that? The third rank, I believe, right? So it goes, where is it here? It goes novice, apprentice, expert, artisan. So that's the 4th rank. So if I want to make a maul, I need to be an artisan blacksmith. So it's blacksmith specialization. It values at 10 gold. It takes 2 hours to make. It requires metal, but it specifically calls out iron. So I have to get iron for that. I need a shaft and I need spikes. So shaft and spikes, where do I get those? Well, I can actually craft those. There's recipes in here for a shaft, which a wood carver or carpenter could make. And there's a recipe in here for spikes, which a blacksmith can also make, though I don't think you need to be an artisan to make spikes. You can be, let's see here. So to make spikes, I just need to be a novice. So spikes is something a novice can make. They just require iron and a DC 5 dexterity or strength check. So I take the iron, the shaft, and the spikes I've acquired, and I need smith's tools and a forge. I need to make a DC 20 strength check. However, if I'm part of the association, I can also do that with a dexterity check because their discipline ability lets me do that. And then, bam, I can make that in 2 hours. Now, if I wanted to make, something higher level, more complicated, it'll take more time. Generally these mundane crafting ones don't take that much time. Now this Ascilian armor, that takes 800 hours. But it's, much higher thing to make. So yeah, there's different stuff. And this one actually requires a DC 25 intelligence check. So, that's something different. This is a unique magic item that is new to this book. So there are some things like that. So that's how crafting works and how the recipes work. And I feel like they did a great job. And we have everything here from creating a wagon to a tinderbox to, enchanting items. If we get into the enchanting items, if I want to make a broom of flying, I need a shaft, which we talked about. I need feathers, not a problem. And then I need a charm of motion. So I have to see where that comes from. That would take me 80 hours to make. And that is at 350 gold. So how does that work? You put these items together depending on your type of your method, be it they have these different methods of enchanting. Like they have stuff where you can bathe the item in some kind of magical liquid. Maybe you do incantations, maybe do rituals, maybe do rune scribing. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. But regardless, once you do it, whether it's you sit around and wait for 80 hours or you have to put 8 hours of work in each day. Now, generally speaking, when you're crafting, you can't do more than 8 hours a day. So at 80 hours, 8 hours a day, it would take me 10 days to create a broom of flying. So that's something I can do if I had 10 days of downtime. I could work on my broom of flying. So yeah, that's how the recipes work. So the final section of this book is all just a bunch of new magic items, all of which have corresponding recipes in the front of the book. But players could also probably just find these and buy them if you wanted to. So always nice to have new magic items as well as new potions and things like that. And then finally, in the back of the book, we have got our appendix. So we have an appendix for harvesting for monsters. So what this looks like is, let's say I want to harvest from a adult black dragon. The harvesting DC check, the CR of the creature is 14. The grade of materials we're going to get from it is high. The DC check to harvest is 20. Now, they don't tell me what type of check. That's kind of left up to the DM. Maybe it's nature. Maybe it's survival. Maybe it's arcana. It really, I guess, would depend on the monster and what we're harvesting from it. In case of the black dragon, they gave me 3 ingredients that I can harvest. They say bone, which would be like teeth and bones. Hide, which would probably be like scales. And toxin, which would probably be its glands from its breath weapon. Doesn't mean those are the only things. Like, let's say I want the dragon's eyeball for something. I can harvest that too. I'd still make it a DC 20 check, but these are just kind of guidelines, right? And then we also have, after this, we have the foraging one. So they give us all different plants that we can harvest. And again, their grades and acquisition DCs, values, and our creation DCs. So the way the creation DCs work, again, is generally if it's a high grade, it's going to give us, let's say, a -2 to the DC, so a 13 rather than a 15. If it's a low grade, it's going to give us a +2, so a 17 rather than 15. And these go all the way from low, medium, high, supreme. So, and again, similar to my homebrew that I was talking about earlier, they broke this up by the type of terrain or region where you would find it, Arctic or coastal or forest or desert. So I like that. That way, whenever my players are in a certain area and they say, the herbalist goes, I want to look for plants, I can go to this table, roll a d20 and tell them what they found. So that's kind of nice. And they kept it to 20 per region, which is more than enough. I think when I did mine, I went like overboard. I might have done like 40 per region or something ridiculous. 20 is more than enough. You don't need more than that. So, and then these do tell you to like rice would fall into like an alcohol, and lemon sagwort would fall into a medical. Poison ivy is a toxin. So it tells you the type of compound that it would use in a recipe. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, that's the book, guys. That is the ultimate guide to alchemy, crafting, and enchanting. Like I said before, I think Nord has found a niche. They are really good at supplemental rules, right? For me, Kobold Press is where I go to for my Midgard campaign setting, amazing adventures, things like that. AAW is where I go to for all my Underdark needs. Drow and those deep dives into the Underdark, they rock. Nord is where I go to kind of enhance my game and really get some tools. I mean, my channel is the DM Toolbox. Nord is the most tool type books I think that are out there. They really are made for any DM in any setting, whether you're playing in Forgotten Realms or Dragonlance or your own homebrew or Midgard. Doesn't matter, because their books work for every single D&D 5e game. They're perfect. The Traps book was amazing. I think they did a killer job on this book. And I have the Spectacular Settlements book sitting right here on the shelf, which I plan on reviewing soon, as well as a couple of their monster books. But yeah, these guys found a great niche. When it comes to the supplemental rules, nobody does it better than Nord, in my opinion. I do have one complaint about this book. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it, and I have no way to bookmark it. Where are my ribbon bookmarks, Nord? This book definitely could have benefited from some of those ribbon bookmarks. I love those things. I know I say it all the time in my videos, but they are awesome to have, and I wish this book had at least one, if not two. I think it would have been a great addition to this book. So I'm kind of sad it doesn't have that. That would be my biggest complaint, though. Aside from that, it's a home run of a book. So good job, guys. Awesome. I'm curious now. I have a question for all you guys. How do you handle crafting in your games? Do you kind of hand wave it? Do you just not do it at all? Do you think that this is something that would benefit you? Do you think that, this might be the answer you were looking for, like it was for me? Or do you have maybe your own homebrew rule system? Even if you maybe wrote something up, you have a document, you want to share it with me, I'd love to take a look. I'm always open to those new ideas that other DMs have. So I'm curious. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below, how you guys handle it. If you do want to grab this book or any of the other Nord books, in the description below, I have a link to their site where you can buy all those awesome books. They also have a Kickstarter out right now for this book that's kind of like the Settlements book, but it's for dangerous locations where you can, throw your players and, give them some really horrible things they have to deal with. So I'm looking forward to seeing that book too. They also have a couple really cool books on like NPCs, both good and bad NPCs, which I don't have yet, but I plan on getting soon. And I'll bring you those when I do. But yeah, go to click the link down in the description. Check out Nord's books. They are also super cool because they sell books for some of the other vendors too, including Kobold Press and a few others. I think Frog God maybe. So some of my favorite vendors, I can buy them all from the Nord site, which I love. So yeah, check them out. Let me know what you guys think about this book. And sometime here in the next couple of weeks, I plan on going over Spectacular Settlements, but it is a massive book that I still have to read through, and it's going to take a while, so I might need a couple weeks on this book. But until then, I will bring you some other stuff. I have some new books from Kobolds and other things I want to go over, so we'll do that soon as well. So come back next week, check it out, see where we're at, and I will get those videos of Gen Con up for you guys as well. All right, until next time, guys, thanks for hanging out, and roll those dice.